Well, I've got an interesting opportunity. Not only do I get to talk about some topical weirdness from across the states transported to these shores by Twitter, but I also get to speak about a Greek play by Aristophanes. And how often do you get to do that? Yeah, it's the Sex Strike, hashtag Sex Strike, by Alyssa Milano. And it's an odd one because somehow by withdrawing sex, she's going to protest the heartbeat bill in Georgia, and this is, a number of other states are looking into these laws to basically limit abortion to 6 weeks, which is basically when the heart of the baby starts beating can be detected. So this is obviously of concern to people which believe in a woman's personal autonomy, the right to choose, that sort of thing. But this is a very strange way of looking at it. And to illustrate this, I'll just give you a quick synopsis of the play. It takes place outside the Acropolis in Athens. And what happens is you've got, the city-states involved in an adventurous war, an unnecessary war, not a just war. And the women are displeased with this, and not because they're angry with the men. It's not a pacifist play. What it is, it's about women not having their men around so that they can't get pregnant, they can't raise a family, and they can't be fulfilled, because their view is that women have a narrow window, and if the men are off adventuring, they're going to be forgotten and possibly pushed aside. So they're worried about that. So they're up in arms about men not being good, husbands basically, and lovers. So they're a bit angry that men are basically not growing up and they're not doing the difficult part of building a state. They're doing the fun part of adventurous war. And so they basically take over the Acropolis. That's, if you've ever seen a picture of Athens, you can see it today. It's the Parthenon there. It's basically the enclosure of the goddess Athena, and that's where they kept the treasury, basically. And they take it over, and these old women basically grab hold of it. They've got a ringleader woman, I can't remember the name, it's a long time since I read the play. And basically they take it over. There's this chorus of old women, chorus of old men. They basically push various different ideas. The old men try and burn down gates, the women pour water on them and embarrass them. The police turn up, and they're like Scythian archers or something, and that's basically the police force of Athens. They turn up, they get humiliated, and the women explain their grievances to them. And you've then got a series of sort of absurdist bits where husbands are basically made to look foolish. A lot of men end up walking around with erections on stage. And basically, eventually, the women talk the men into negotiating an honourable peace. And that's the play. And it's had a big influence throughout history. And the strange thing about it is it's an odd thing to try and use the idea of a sex strike to protest this, because the people on the right think that you shouldn't be having sex. You shouldn't be having sex irresponsibly and using abortion as a means of contraception. So Mike Pence, I'm sure, absolutely agrees with your sex strike. Indeed, he believes that it should be a long-running thing and part of the commitment to eventually come to a relationship where you can have sex and actually have a framework in which to raise children. And he would no doubt applaud it. And if you look on the web, there's already a load of memes about that. Now, I think also the fact that when you look at the goddess Athena, and she is a big player in the background, cultural assumptions basically in the play there, well, she is the goddess of victory, wisdom, and chastity. Ah! That's horrible. But anyway, chastity. So therefore, it's a play about responsibility. It's a play about men living up to their obligations and what women want from men. It's more a Greek play which is what women want, and what women want are good guys which are going to be around and to provide and to be good partners and good lovers and all that kind of other stuff. But that's what the play's about. It's not actually an anti-war play as such, at least I certainly don't read it as that. And the idea of depriving just liberal men, and I'm left-wing men in America, of sex is not going to help your cause. The Conservatives will all agree with you, and Conservative women are probably going to be in relationships which they're quite comfortable in, and they're not going to be part of your strike. So it's a kind of self-defeating, and it's a very, very strange story. But it was fantastic because I got to talk about a play which I never thought I would have an opportunity to talk about. And yeah, I think fundamentally it shows that, you know, the actress is kind of not really reading the play in that sort of sense, or maybe it's only being interpreted in a very narrow feminist way. And there are ways of reading it. And certainly, I think if you read it in the context which I think the ancient Greeks would have read it in, it's definitely not about feminism, definitely not about female autonomy, but it is very much about responsibility and reconciliation. And perhaps, ultimately, this silliness could perhaps encourage a few people to look at a really great play and learn something from it, which actually brings people together. So perhaps that's the silver lining in this story. Anyway, I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. It is glorious here. And yeah, I've just been to the gym, done 2 enormous pyramid sets of deadlifts, and then I used a machine to do absolutely ludicrous weight, just to basically press the legs really, really hard. I feel more comfortable doing that on machines because, you know, you're inherently a little bit safer. But yeah, I was pushing the deadlift as well today, so that was pretty good. Didn't quite go up to 100 kilograms, but I did huge volume on that. With the leg press, I did 175 and I did 10 reps of those at the peak. But because I went up by 5s from 140, I did huge volume again. So I'm kind of doing a little mix of kind of pyramid training with an emphasis on volume, partly because I've done a lot of pure strength stuff and now I'm doing a bit more volume. And then I'm going to kind of, after about a 6-week cycle of that, going to go back and do some heavy stuff again. But I'm not going to back off a little bit because I've got an ultra marathon in 1 week's time. So I don't really want to absolutely cripple myself before that. So I'll give myself a couple of days of taper and I should be fine for that. As for like any gym videos and stuff, I don't go to a 24-hour gym. So it's quite difficult to get down there at a time where, you know, it's quiet enough to actually do anything like that. And I don't want to be a jerk, kind of, you know, monopolizing space and stuff. But I'm doing a charity row in about 2 weeks, a 100-kilometer row. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of do some filming and stuff there and talk about like good technique, at least on a rowing machine, because I rowed at uni. And yeah, I feel quite confident about telling people how to actually operate the thing safely and effectively and efficiently. Fantastic exercise, but very frequently done wrong. And I see it in the gym and I have to kind of bite my tongue not to kind of say, please don't do that. Don't lean back. You know, you're not trying to pull it up to your chin there. No, up to the chest, nice and straight back. You know, take it down. You drop the oar down like you were lifting it out of the water. And a lot of these things relate to, you know, when you see someone in a boat, then map that onto the actual rowing. Anyway, I really wasn't meant to kind of go into that. I suppose there is mention of rowing and oars in the play, so I believe the police turn up trying to look for money to pay for oars for the sort of Athenian fleet. So yeah, there is a very slight link there. Anyway, I better go off. Hope you have a fantastic weekend and looking forward to seeing you all again.